President Trump is reportedly preparing for special counsel Robert Mueller to issue his final report as early as next week. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. After Trump declared a national emergency to bypass Congress and build his border wall, 16 states filed legal challenges almost immediately. In comments to reporters this week, Trump insisted he had the absolute right to unilaterally build his wall and said it was a matter of national security.
We have absolute right to do that. I have an absolute right to call national security. We need strong borders. It's an open and closed case. I was put here for security, whether it's Space Force, which we're doing today, or whether it's borders.
Space Force and borders. It's pretty telling that despite the effects of climate change, gun violence, and inadequate health care, Trump thinks the biggest threats to America are asylum seekers and Klingons. I mean, hell, why not combine the two and deploy the Space Force to the border? The National Emergency Declaration is just the latest example of Trump's disregard for the rule of law. Republicans have elected a guy who tramples over the Constitution after spending years lecturing the rest of us about the Constitution. And even though he clearly didn't mean it, Trump repeatedly promised during the campaign that he would restore the rule of law.
We have to restore the rule of law on our border, in our government, no matter where it is. It has to be restored. In my administration, I'm going to enforce all laws concerning the protection of classified information. No one will be above the law. This election will determine whether we remain a free country in the truest sense of the word, or we become a corrupt banana republic controlled by large donors and foreign governments.
I'm sorry, real quick, can we hear that word again?
Controlled by large donors.
Did you mean to say donors? Why do you sound like Medea? That's like saying Congress is going to pass a lure or reminding everyone to get out and vote. But you heard Trump very clearly there. The government would not be controlled by large donors or, more importantly, foreign governments. The President of the United States will put Americans above everyone else, period.
In his latest interviews, as well as in his new book, the former FBI acting director Andrew McCabe recounts a time President Trump refused to believe information from top U.S. intelligence officials, preferred instead to take the word of Russia's Vladimir Putin.
The president said he did not believe that the North Koreans had the capability to hit us here with ballistic missiles in the United States. And he did not believe that because President Putin had told him they did not. Intelligence officials in the briefing responded that that was not consistent with any of the intelligence our government possesses. To which the president replied, "I don't care, I believe Putin."
He told American intelligence officials he believed Putin over them. Say what you will about Trump, he might be a criminal, but at least he's super obvious about it. It's like if someone asked Barry Bonds if he wanted to take batting practice, and he said, "Not right now, I have to go take my steroids." Why on earth would you believe Putin over your own intelligence officials unless you had some sort of corrupt relationship with him? He's not exactly the most trustworthy guy. I mean, look at him. That's the same way Dexter used to smile at people when they came too strapped to a table. You trusted a guy with resting Dexter face. In interviews this month, McCabe has detailed the extent to which Trump tried to interfere in the various investigations of him and his closest aides. For example, after Trump fired James Comey and McCabe took over as acting FBI director, Trump tried to claim that Comey was widely disliked within the FBI, and even tried to get McCabe to say he also hated Comey, which was not true.
The president immediately went off on almost a gleeful description of what had happened with the firing of Jim Comey. And then he went on to state that people in the FBI were thrilled about this, that people really disliked Jim Comey, and that they were very happy about this, and that it was a great thing. What I was hearing from the president was not reality. It was the version of the events that I quickly realized he wished me to adopt. And he said, I heard that you were one of the people that did not support Jim Comey. You didn't agree with him and the decisions that he'd made in the Clinton case. And is that true? And I said, no, sir, that's not true.
Trump thinks he can Jedi mind trick you into believing something. He's like one of those old-timey villains with black and white swirls for eyes. You hated James Comey. No, I liked him. No, you hated him. What's wrong with your eyes? Oh, they're transplants from a donor. McCabe was worried that the president was trying to interfere in the Russia investigation, which was obviously true. In fact, Trump started to install loyalists who he knew he could control, like his recently departed acting attorney general, Matt Whitaker. Whitaker refused to recuse himself from the Russia investigation, and a few weeks ago, he even insisted the investigation was winding down, although he seemed super nervous about it.
Before you came into your current role, you were publicly very critical of the special counsel investigation. Now, since you have received your briefings, is there anything that you've seen or read that gives you concern about special counsel Robert Mueller or his investigation?
You know, I've been fully briefed on the investigation, and, you know, I look forward to Director Mueller delivering the final report. But right now, you know, the investigation is, I think, close to being completed, and I hope that we can get the report from Director Mueller as soon as possible.
Look at how sweaty he is. He looks like a glass of iced tea on a hot summer day. Somebody put that guy on a coaster. Trump installed Whitaker to get the various investigations of him and his associates under control, like Michael Cohen, who is being investigated by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York. And this week, the New York Times reported that Trump tried to get Whitaker to put an ally of his in charge of the Cohen investigation.
The Times reports that while Manhattan's federal prosecutors were gathering evidence on Trump's involvement in hush money payments during the 2016 election, Trump called former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker. Quote, Trump asked whether Jeffrey S. Berman, the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York and a Trump ally, could be put in charge of the widening investigation, according to several American officials with direct knowledge of the call.
So Trump tried to get Whitaker to interfere in the investigation of Michael Cohen. Can you imagine how much Whitaker was sweating during that phone call? Probably looked like he just climbed out of a pool. Now, there's been speculation for months that special counsel Robert Mueller's investigation is wrapping up or winding down, and it's never been true. But now this week, there's new reporting that Justice Department officials are expecting Mueller's final report as soon as next week. And if that's the case, it could come when Trump is out of the country.
We have the clearest indication yet that special counsel Robert Mueller is nearly done with his almost 2-year investigation and that the end game here is near. Sources say the Justice Department is preparing to announce as early as next week that Attorney General Bill Barr has received Mueller's confidential report. And soon after that announcement, Barr will review the findings and then submit his own summary to Congress.
If it were released next week, it would happen as the president was in Hanoi, Vietnam, meeting for the second time with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un.
So Trump might be out of the country in Hanoi when Mueller issues his report. If that happens, there's a good chance Trump just won't come back. Kim, you gotta smuggle me back to North Korea. Hide me in your coat. How much more evidence do we need that Trump was trying to obstruct justice? He told Comey to shut down his investigation of Michael Flynn. When Comey refused, he fired him. He bragged to the Russians he fired Comey because of the Russia investigation, and he tried to interfere in the investigation of Michael Cohen. The evidence is clear. When this is all over, Trump's either going to go to jail or he's going to have to resign and flee and, you know, join the
Space Force.
This has been a closer look.